That's all my housekeeping. So it's my great pleasure to hand over to my colleague from Botswana Open University, Dr. Sunny Ayuk, who is going to introduce our keynote speaker for this afternoon. The stage is yours.
Thank you very much, and good afternoon, colleagues. Let me write on the protocol previously established, and to say that I'm here to just give some highlights concerning the bio-sketch of our keynote speaker for the afternoon in the name of Dr. Daniel Ragomo Tau. So it's good to note, as has been said already, I am Professor Sunny Ayuk, just an introducer of our keynote speaker. Indeed, Dr. Daniel Ragomo Tau worked as a teacher and school head in the secondary school system of Botswana prior to becoming an open and distance learning practitioner. It's also good to know that he's an illustrious citizen of Botswana and became the inaugural chief executive of the Botswana College of Distance and Open Learning, the then Bokodol, in 1999, and under his leadership, Bokodol became globally reputable and was conferred an award of excellence for institutional achievement in distance education by the Commonwealth of Learning in 2006. Dr. Tau successfully steered the transformation of Bokodol into the Botswana Open University and assumed responsibility for office of its inaugural Vice-Chancellor in April 2018, serving in the office until March 2023. Dr. Daniel Ragomo Tau was conferred with the Botswana Presidential Order of Meritorious Service in September 2011, African Education Leadership Award in November 2013, and the Commonwealth of Learning Honorary Fellowship Award in 2013 also, all for his sterling contributions to the development of education. During his tenure at Botswana Open University in March 2023, he was a member of the Botswana National UNESCO Commission, member of the SADC Technical Committee on Distance Education, and chairman of the management board of the Virtual University of the Small States of the Commonwealth, what we termed VERSC, and known to most of all. Though which universities and colleges of 32 small states of the Commonwealth collaboratively developed tertiary programs and courses for their common good. Dr. Tau is currently the chairperson of the Institute of Labor and Employment Studies Board, as well as the chairperson of the University of Botswana Council. Dr. Tau has also served as chairman of the Botswana National Sports Council from 2008 to 2011, and the Botswana National Vision 2016 Council between 2005 and 2012. He was a recipient of the Confederation of African Football Award in 2010 for his contributions to football development in Botswana as a player, coach, and administrator. He qualified as a FIFA third and second degree soccer coach and referee between 1982 and 1984. Dr. Tau has also served as board member of several institutions in Botswana and internationally. He's an alumnus of the University of Botswana and Swaziland, where he obtained his diploma in secondary education, DSE, in 1980, University of Botswana, where he completed his Bachelor of Education, B.Ed, in 1990, and University of Bath in the UK, where he studied and completed both the Master of Arts in Educational Management and Doctor of Education, EDD, in 1997 and 2006, respectively. He studied for the latter two qualifications whilst continuing to serve the Botswana education system. At this point in time, ladies and gentlemen, I have the singular honor to invite Dr. Daniel Ragomo Tau to the stage to give his keynote address. Thank you.
Thank you, Sani Ayuk, for that introduction. I'm in the same position that the President of Botswana was in just the day before yesterday. He was introduced, and he did say, because of the introduction, people expected him to speak and speak with authority and eloquently through his presentation. And he did say he was not going to speak for a long time. But I take it that you are witnesses that he did stay for quite some time. Yes, don't expect me to stay here for as long as he did. Let me first acknowledge Honorable Prince Maele, even though I can't see him this afternoon, the Minister of Higher Education for Botswana. Honorable Ministers of the Commonwealth States in attendance, President of the Commonwealth of Learning and your distinguished staff, Vice Chancellors, and members of the wider academic community, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, just in case I've left out somebody who is supposed to be recognized, let me be inclusive in stating that I would like to write on the protocol that has already been established for this forum. Director of Ceremonies, it is my distinct pleasure, honor, and privilege to address this propitious forum. I am particularly humbled by the very thought of making some contribution to the collective intelligence of the Commonwealth of Learning through my address, which is titled Incarnation of Global and National Education Development Ideals for Institution of Sustainable Open Education Systems, the case and experience of Botswana. You can almost conclude that I am going to be giving you a story of this beautiful republic called Botswana. I am a boy raised, born and bred in the rural setting of this country, and storytelling is very much part of our culture. So when I tell you our story, you shouldn't be surprised. That's simply how we were brought up. We are a storytelling nation. In this keynote, Director of Proceedings, I intend to address a few perspectives as my contribution to the Pan-Commonwealth Forum, guided by the chosen theme and the topic I have elected to zero in on. And you can almost tell that there must be some difference between what the theme says and the topic I'll be concentrating on. And some of you may perceive the slight difference between the two as deviation from what is desired. And my rebuttal to the perception would include the fact that the choice of topic was influenced by my own philosophical stance relative to the core concepts of the conference. The presentation, all in all, is representative of my lived experience as an open education alumnus, practitioner, manager, and leader in Botswana. And my association with the Commonwealth of Learning, the International Council on Distance Education, the African Council on Distance Education, and the Distance Education Association of Southern Africa has so profoundly influenced my thoughts for this afternoon. Having said that, let me briefly touch on the topic in context. The term incarnation, which stands out in the topic, carries connotations of spirituality. In most, if not all religions, it denotes the union of the divine or spiritual deity with humanity. In Christian circles, it is widely believed that God, in his spiritual nature, became man in the person of Jesus Christ and embodied certain principles and lived physically in the world whilst continuing to maintain his godly nature. In the context of the topic at hand, incarnation of ideals refers to the process of taking abstract concepts, principles, and standards, and the translation of the same into concrete actions and realities to make them tangibly impactful to human life. It is about embodying ideas in actions, embodying ideas in behaviors, in thoughts, and even in the physical form. My presentation seeks to demonstrate how Botswana has, to an appreciable extent, been able to harness the benefits enshrined in the education development ideals adopted at global level and domesticated the same to give shape and substance to national education policies and agenda that eventually precipitated the obtaining open education systems, which arguably have proved sustainable and resilient. Whilst appreciative that the theme of the conference places emphasis on the societal impact of innovative, open education systems. I have largely elected to focus on how open education systems should be anchored to ensure their efficacy and sustainability. My view being that it is only when open education is well anchored and well founded that its relevance and hence impact could be guaranteed. Having briefly clarified the context of the topic, I proceed to provide in seriatim a synopsis of the select global and national education development ideals that Botswana has successfully incarnated to serve as precipitants of her obtaining open education systems. At global level, the ideals derive largely from one, the Education for All Declaration. This declaration was made at the World Education Conference held in Thailand in 1990. Participants thereof, including Botswana officials, unanimously agreed that there was need to direct educational focus to children, youth, and adults to ensure they all had access to quality basic education. The IFA Declaration thereafter served as a critical framework in developing educational policies globally, as there was that wide belief that education was crucial for poverty eradication, fostering of equality, and the building of a more peaceful and sustainable future, all of which had been elusive to many parts of the world. The other global ideals that Botswana incarnated and continues to harness the substance of derive first from the set of 8 mutually reinforcing goals contained in the United Nations 2000 Millennium Declaration. Goals which were adopted to initiate an action to combat global human development deprivations, to which many nations were exposed. The goals thus guided and shaped the global human development agenda, inclusive of open education between 2000 and 2015. Secondly, Botswana, like all other nations, is still seized with the implementation of sustainable development goals, which collectively constitute a United Nations plan of action for people, planet, and prosperity, according to UNDP 2015. There's a report of that. Of special relevance to open education is obviously, as you all know, SDG 4, which seeks to ensure inclusive and equitable quality education and promote lifelong learning opportunities for all. Thirdly is what I have termed calls learning for sustainable development agenda. Botswana works with various Commonwealth technical arms, and more particularly the Commonwealth of Learning, with which she has partnered to make possible the ongoing PCF 11. The strides that the local open education system has made have largely been propelled by the initiatives, programs, and technical expertise that the Commonwealth of Learning has over time shared and allowed Botswana to domesticate. COL has thus had profound influence on the obtaining open education architecture through its Learning for Sustainable initiatives, such as the Virtual University for small states of the Commonwealth, which Botswana, through Bokodol and now Bo, has leveraged for provision of technology-enabled tertiary education. And the second initiative, worthy of mention this afternoon, is the Transnational Qualifications Framework that was meant to facilitate the sharing of programs, to facilitate transfer of program credits and mobility of learners. And I should mention to you that Botswana's own qualifications framework is referenced to the Transnational Qualifications Framework. At national level, the ideals that precipitated the obtaining open education systems derive from, amongst others, the following. One, national principles. On attaining independence in 1966, Botswana adopted national principles which were rooted in her cultural values and aspirations. The principles, which include democracy, development, self-reliance, unity, and Botu, which is referred to as Ubuntu by the rest of Africa. These principles have since guided policy development. They have fostered social cohesion. They have helped or contributed to Botswana's unique identity, which was elaborately described by the President day before yesterday. Whilst the adoption of the referred principles predates all global ideals covered in this presentation, the evidence of resonance and consonance in between is undeniable. They speak the same language. Secondly, is education policies of this nation. Two landmark policies have guided the development of Botswana's education, and these are the National Policy on Education of 1977, themed Education for Kagisanyo. And in case I'm sounding Greek or Spanish, to some within my audience, Kagisanyo means social harmony. So the theme of that policy was education for social harmony. But we prefer to use the vernacular, Kagisanyo. It speaks more to the people of this republic. The second policy is the revised National Policy on Education, which was adopted in 1994. The first policy had an emphasis on the quantitative expansion of educational access, primarily to basic education. The policy saw the increase of primary schools by 42%, whilst secondary schools increased tenfold, from 23 in the late 1970s to 230 by 1993. A new department was created, the Department of Non-Formal Education. It was set up in 1978 to provide out-of-school education for youth and adults. The revised national policy, on the other hand, whilst acknowledging the need to widen access to education and training, placed emphasis on quality of education. In addition, the latter, that is the revised national policy on education, provided for consolidation of open education through the institution of an open and distance learning college that was set up to expand the scope of open schooling and as well as to provide pre-tertiary vocational management and professional courses. The institution of the referred college took effect in 1998. The implementation of the two policies ultimately led to the achievement of universal free basic education and the establishment of open education systems that covered primary, secondary, and tertiary education levels, as well as the provision of skills development, training for youth and adults. And as an offshoot of the revised national policy on education, a tertiary education policy was developed and adopted in 2008. The policy served to liberalize tertiary education and provided for the establishment of an open university. And the Open University ultimately commenced operations in 2017 following the transformative upgrade of the open and distance learning college that I have made reference to, the ODL college that precipitated out of the revised national policy on education. The Open University has since assumed leadership of the local open education development agenda and has significantly democratized higher education with its innovative teaching and learning opportunities, rather approaches. Second or third at national level are national visions. The first vision, national vision, commonly referred to as Vision 2016, was adopted in 1997, following extensive consultation with various stakeholders, including communities, organizations, and individuals. The vision served as Botswana's overarching framework for all national development programs and policies. It focused on achieving prosperity for all through pillars that included an educated and informed nation, a prosperous, productive, and innovative nation, a moral and tolerant nation, a compassionate, just, and caring nation, a safe and secure nation, an open, democratic, and accountable nation, and a united and proud nation. 7 pillars in all. By 2016, the vision ideals had fairly been achieved and access to education had significantly improved. Having realized the important role that national visions play, Botswana developed a second vision in 2016 to guide her socio-economic development to 2036, building upon the successes and lessons learned from the first vision. The new vision, which is current, outlines 4 key pillars: viz. Sustainable economic development, human and social development, sustainable environment, and finally, governance, peace, and security. The pillars are interconnected, and they aim to transform Botswana into a knowledge-based and high-income economy by 2036. The vision is expected to heavily rely on education, training, and skills development systems that embrace science, innovation, and technology. Equally emphasized by the vision is the need for lifelong learning and training opportunities that should be provided for all with equal bias to academic, technical, and vocational skills. Coming down to the Botswana open education architecture and impact. The National Open Education System serves the people of Botswana through 4 main program levels, which are described as follows. One, the out-of-school education and training, OSET. The program serves to provide education and training opportunities for children who are not in school, including orphans, vulnerable children, and those who have dropped out of primary school. OSET addresses learning gaps, improves access to education, and promotes overall well-being of the children. The program deploys a variety of strategies, including community-based centers, accelerated learning and vocational training to cater for the diverse needs of the targeted population. A branch of the program, namely adult basic education, is designed specifically to capacitate adults with literacy skills. In addition to basic literacy, enrolled adults are offered skills training for livelihoods. The quality of the OSET program is assured through the deployment of qualified teachers or adult educators, appropriate curricula, and compassionate pedagogy. Parents, community leaders, and other stakeholders are involved to ensure the program's efficacy and appropriateness. Monitoring and evaluation are undertaken to track progress, identify challenges, and for adjustments as may be necessary. As at March 2025, the program had a gross enrollment of 4,489 learners and a total of 905 registered learners income-generating projects. Second program level is open schooling. This is offered mainly through the College of Open Schooling, a semi-autonomous academic structure within the Botswana Open University, which uses open and distance learning to provide flexible junior and senior secondary education to people of all ages. The college employs study materials, tutorials, and multimedia that allow learners to study at their own pace and schedule. The enrollees sit for the same examinations as students in public secondary schools. Most of them enroll with the aim of upgrading their conventional secondary school grades, and those who succeed in their examinations compete for further education as other citizens. The administrative and learner support to open schooling is provided through the 5 campuses of the Botswana Open University. The college also leverages the Commonwealth of Learning's Open Education Resources Initiative, and the college is actively involved in the development of the resources for wider use by all interested institutions and citizens of the Commonwealth. For the period between 2018 and 2024, the college had recorded a cumulative enrollment of 58,286 learners and a secondary average pass rate of 69.34%, according to the records that are available within the Botswana Open University. Third program level is higher education. The Botswana Open University, which stands as the apex open education institution, offers higher education from certificate to postgraduate level. And with its 5 strategically located and digitally interconnected campuses, the university has significantly or democratized or taken university education closer to citizens, including those citizens who live and work in remote areas. The university has leveraged the national digital infrastructure to automate its institutional support services, to institute online registration, to digitalize teaching and learning, and to introduce a digital library that is accessible to all registered local and international students who are connected to the internet. Its digital innovations adopted between 2019 and 2023 enabled it to withstand the ravages of the COVID-19 scare and enhanced the university's overall service delivery, culminating in increased enrollment and increased programs throughput rates. The throughput rate for the period between 2017 and 2023 stood at 65.7% against the global average of about 15% for open institutions. Based on the foregoing developments, higher education has not only been democratized, but both graduates who live in remote areas have improved chances of contributing to the sustainable economic development agenda of Botswana through their acquired higher order skills and credentials. The fourth program level is the part-time studies. Part-time courses are offered largely through the outreach arms of the public and private universities, colleges and institutes, as well as professional development centers located in various parts of the country. Many of the offered courses are of a short duration and are focused on specific skills. However, some fully fledged university-level programs are offered through evening and weekend classes, block release, and modular learning arrangements. The courses are mainly targeted at working populations for their continued professional development and skills enhancement. The courses' flexible methods of delivery enable enrolled workers to embrace emerging labor market changes by learning whilst continuing to work and earn their salaries. Based on the foregoing descriptive summary of the global and national education development ideals, as well as the Botswana open education architecture, it could arguably be asserted that the latter precipitated from the ideals as sequenced in my paper. This line of argument could, however, be weakened by the fact that some ideals flow out of national principles and policies that predate global frameworks that by and large are assumed to have been foundational to education development in the world. A case in point is the National Education Policy of 1977 that Botswana adopted about 1.5 decades before the Education for All framework was conceived. The same could be said about the National Vision 2016, which Botswana adopted in 1996, 4 years before the United Nations Millennium Development Goals Declaration came into effect. What, however, is interesting and heartwarming is the realization that there is consonance and resonance between the ideals espoused by both sets of frameworks. The view of this keynote is that the obtaining open education ecosystem represents the distillation of the cumulative effect of the global and national education development ideals mentioned supra. The system set up in Botswana is a testament that fuse together in methodic and ingenious ways and shaped by contextual imperatives at national level, the combined effect of the referenced ideals could precipitate innovative open education that is impactful, inclusive, and robust enough to underpin resilience and sustainable economic development of our respective societies. These views should, however, not be construed to imply that, in all circumstances, there is a linear flow of development ideals from the global to national levels, followed by a trickle down to open education institutions. That would be misleading. The Incarnation process referenced in this keynote should be seen as a dynamic interplay where global influences trigger or amplify pre-existing potentialities for action or change within nations and institutions, rather than a one-way flow of ideas. Ideas could as well be conceived at or generated at institutional levels for upward incarnation through nations and to the world at large. In the modern day knowledge economies, competition for and between ideas is intensifying by the day. It should become normal for institutions, even in small states of the Commonwealth community, to lead in the generation of novel ideas for their nations and the global community to ultimately embrace. The vast project that I made reference to, which was incubated by the Commonwealth of Learning, has already demonstrated that small states institutions have what it takes to be equal competitors in the global race to novelty and excellence. They have demonstrable capacity to ramp up the Commonwealth of Learning's attempts to position open education as a torch and solution bearer against the many existential threats that relentlessly riddle our habitat. Viewed through the lenses of big population nations, of the Commonwealth and the world at large, the statistics referenced in this keynote may be considered insignificant, as I've been talking small numbers, relatively. But for small population nations as Botswana, they are significant. They have value-adding and far-reaching effects on national human capital development efforts. Director of Proceedings, as I move towards closure, it is my assumption that this keynote has driven home the point that global development ideals can be harnessed and/or effectively incarnated to find expression in our national context through their infusion into policies and strategies that guide the institution and the edification of our respective open education ecosystems. It is my hope, Director of Proceedings, that the ideals that will flow out of the communique of this forum will be variously incarnated, with a view to consolidating our national open education systems, processes, and programs. The Botswana open education systems architecture and deployment, in my view, presents a model worthy of consideration by other small states of the Commonwealth. I am certain that our institutions or the institutions of our land would welcome anybody who might find them worthy of benchmarking on and to ultimately collaborate with for mutual benefit and the furtherance of the very principles and ideals of the Commonwealth. That we need to adopt a common set of collaborative skills and a mindset that enables open education to flourish in the interconnected world is for me a given. It is for me a must. Knowledge is, after all, our community's commonwealth. Let us therefore generously share it for the sustainability of our fledgling field of education, being open education. With that, Director of Proceedings, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you for giving me the opportunity to share that story. Director of Proceedings, I beg to retreat to my seat. Thank you very much.